Hi, I'm Gill Fry, and today I'm going to show you how I process my night photos in Lightroom. Okay, let's start with this photo that I took down at the Gibson Steps last time we went on the Great Ocean Road Tour. And you'll see that I've used the recommended settings of ISO 1600. This was shot on a 24-70 lens, f2.8 and 20 seconds. And you can see also that we used a torch to light the foreground here, and it's also very, very dark. If you haven't done any light painting, you will see that your whole photo is probably very, very dark. So sometimes it's a good idea to light up your foreground to bring something into it. Anyway, let's get started. Okay, usually I start with the exposure, and in this case I might want to up it a little bit just to make the sky. I'm going to concentrate on the sky first, and then I'll deal with the foreground. So you can see that I've just upped the sky a little bit, and I think I'll bring in a little bit of contrast there, and then maybe a few highlights, and maybe darken the shadows a little bit. Take up the whites just a fraction. Again, don't look at the foreground, just look at the sky. We'll deal with the foreground in a minute. And take the blacks down a little bit, just a touch of clarity and a little bit of vibrance. Also, I'm actually thinking that this whole sky is just a little bit too purple. It was shot on the fluorescent setting, but it was quite early in the evening, so it was still quite purple. So I might even actually just play a little bit with the colour settings just to make it a little bit more natural. Maybe about there. Okay, and might bring up the vibrance a little bit too. So you'll see that my Milky Way's there, but it's not starting to pop yet. So what I'm going to do is I have a brush that I've set up as a preset myself, and I call it the Milky Way. And in that preset you'll see the exposure is just up a little fraction, a little bit of contrast, a bit of highlights, the shadows are down a little bit, whites up a little, blacks down a little bit of clarity and a little bit of saturation. And what I do, I'm just going to scroll my mouse wheel to make my feather bigger, my circle bigger. I actually take that over the whole sky, because the last thing I want to do is just to do the Milky Way, because if you do that then it stands out too much and doesn't look as natural. So I just want to go over the whole sky with my brush and just bring in that Milky Way a little bit more. And then I click done down here. Now if I want it to even pop a little bit more, I can even do it again, but this time more in the middle area. Just adding a little bit more in there. Okay. So now the sky is starting to pop a little bit more. You can, of course, if you want your Milky Way to pop even more, get your adjustment brush and go to either the burn or the lighten. The burn obviously to go on the darker bits, and the lighten to go on the lighter bits. So let's just do a bit of burning first. Again, I scroll my mouse wheel just to bring down the amount. And you just paint in, and I think that's a little bit too dark, so let's just take our exposure up a little bit. Oops, too much. Say -10, and it's only just a little bit, just to be subtle. You don't want to overdo it so that it doesn't look natural. And you just paint in on the darker areas there. click done again down the bottom, and then let's go and do the lighter areas. So go dodge lighten, and I think I'll take this back a smidge too. You only need 0.1, and then just go in and paint the lighter bits. Okay. Now of course you can see my foreground here looks horrible at this particular stage. So let's do something about it. First of all, I'm going to get the adjustment brush and I'm going to take down the exposure a little bit, maybe up the contrast a little bit, and take down some highlights. Let's just see how that looks. Scroll my brush again, and let's just see if we can darken that down a little bit. And also that colour is horrendous, so let's just take down the saturation, make it more natural, even though that's how it was shot. But anyway, let's just make it look a bit better. Let's up the clarity a little bit. I think we're still a little bit too bright. Take down the highlights, and maybe even take down the exposure a bit more. It's just a bit too glary, isn't it? Okay, I think I'll take some clarity out of that actually, just to put more emphasis on the sky rather than on the foreground. Okay. Now one area that I want to improve on this shot is my water here. I think that could glow a little bit more, so using the adjustment brush I actually want to bring up the shadows. Let's get rid of those and scroll my brush down again to go just to the bit where I want that to glow a little bit more. You'll see that all the differences that I'm making are really, really subtle, but they do make a difference to the end result. Might even just run that over here a little bit too. As I said, very, very subtle. Okay. The next thing that I like to play about with is this tone curve. This can make a major difference to your shot. So just play around with the tone curve to see what it actually does. By bringing it up, you can see it brings up that Milky Way, makes it pop a little bit more, but also the foreground is popping, so I might have to tone that down a little bit. And obviously if you go the other way, you lose a lot of your Milky Way. So let's just maybe pop that Milky Way just a little fraction, and maybe just bring down in the lower part of the tone curve in the darks, just to make it pop a little bit more. I'm still worried about this foreground here, so I'm going to grab my graduated filter, make sure everything's set to 0 to start with by double clicking on it, and then I'm going to bring this up to about there, and again I'm going to take my highlights down. That's better. Maybe my exposure down a little bit, just a fraction, maybe up the clarity, and again I'm going to take some saturation out of that. It's just a little bit too bright. Okay, so that's a very rough processing. I usually spend a little bit more time on it than that, but that gives you an idea of what I do. The most important step though is that you need to do your noise reduction. So if you scroll down the bar here, and you'll find this little square which has detail, and you'll see that there's a little bit of noise in there. So what I do is, with my sharpening, the amount, I set that to 50. My masking, I set that to 80. And in my noise reduction luminance, I usually on a shot like this I'd probably go up to maybe 20, and you can see that's got rid of a lot of noise in there. It's starting to look a lot better. If I was still worried about noise, I would then take it into the Nik collection, and you do that if you have the Nik collection installed, which is a free program, so I suggest you do. All you need to do is you need to click on your shot, right click, edit in, and go to define, and that will then take the next level of noise reduction out of your picture. So let's see the difference of what we've done. So we've gone from this, where the Milky Way is looking quite flat, to this, where we've got a little bit more pop in the Milky Way. Again, you could adjust your colours a little bit more if you didn't like that sort of purpley look. If you wanted to make it more blue, that's fine. It's just totally a preference thing. But what I just wanted to show you was how I try to bring out the most in my Milky Way to make a balanced shot. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and if you have, please do subscribe. It does help me in making sure that I am meeting the training needs of people looking to improve their photography. So please subscribe, give me a like, put a comment down below, and I hope to catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.